This is my 156th video on my work with OO gauge. See part 1 of this series for my reasons for getting into OO gauge when I already had a lot invested in working in N gauge and I didn't really have space available for a large, fully operational OO gauge layout. Also see my series on my N gauge railway modelling for smaller and more complex scenery and smaller scale trains running. This part is basically by way of revisiting things I was dealing with in part 154. That video was about Hornby Dublo tinplate coaches that I obtained. There were 3 Dublo LMS coaches that were 3-rail, so I needed to change the wheels on those so that I could run them on modern track, and I had some troubles fitting those coaches with wheels that would make them work on my modern track without derailing. In that video I also pulled out a Hornby Dublo 2-rail Jinty tank loco, intending to use it with the tinplate coaches, but it wouldn't run at all well, so I used other locos for the running in that video. In this video I'll be revisiting the Dublo 2-rail Jinty, trying to fix its running problems, and I'll be revisiting the 3-rail tinplate coaches now that I've received some new wheels that I hoped might work well with those coaches. First, the little Hornby Dublo 2-rail Jinty. Here it is on my Hornby layout. When I tried to run it in part 154, preparatory to using it with the Hornby Dublo coaches, it wouldn't run at all well. I had to give it about 90% power on my Morley controller to get it to run forwards at a reasonable speed, something you might expect from around 50%. And it would barely run backwards at all, even with 100% power. So I put it aside and didn't use it for pulling the coaches in that video. Now I wanted to get to the bottom of why this loco didn't run well. I thought that it might need its motor remagnetising, although I got it from Nigel with British Model Trains and I thought that he'd already serviced the motor. Anyway, I got it down on the bench into the servicing cradle and saw about removing the body. I did try it on the rolling road, and it didn't run there any better than it had on the layout, requiring a lot of power to turn the wheels at all. I removed the screw that was holding on the back coupling first, as I thought that I would need to remove the brass screw seen at left here to get the body off, but removing that brass screw did nothing to free the body, so I figured I was on the wrong track. I looked at the other end. There was nothing on the bottom that looked like a body retention screw, but then I realised that there was a screw in the chimney. And sure enough, when I removed that screw in the chimney, which turned out to be very long, the body came off, being retained at the back just by a tong on the chassis that fitted into a groove in the body. To my surprise, the body was plastic. It looked metal to me. It still does, but it's definitely plastic. Now I got a real shock. When I ran the chassis on the rolling road without the body, it ran absolutely fine, starting up at low power and running the wheels smoothly at all speeds. So why the heck wouldn't it work with the body on? I took the chassis up to the layout to check it out running there. Well, this one's pretty bizarre. I'm still in the middle of trying to figure out the problems with it. But this is the chassis from the Hornby Dublo Jinty. And I've taken the body off, and the body, it turned out, was plastic. I thought it was metal, but because the whole thing was so heavy and it looked like metal, but no, it's plastic. The bizarre thing is, I had to turn this up to 90% power to get a vaguely decent running speed. But with the body removed, the chassis runs absolutely fine. So, I don't know, I'm still in the middle of trying to figure it out. What is it about putting the body on? But I just brought it up. I tested it on the rolling road, it seemed to run fine. So now we'll just give it some power. See, look how it pulls away smoothly. And that's 50% power. That's 50% power with the chassis with no body. It took me, it wasn't even going that fast, I don't think, with 90% power with the body on. So there's nothing wrong with the motor or the wheels or the pickup. Well, the pickups were kind of dirty before, but I cleaned them before and it still wouldn't go as fast as this even with 90% power. So it's something about fitting the body. What is it? Stopping the wheels turning or what? I don't know, I'm going to have to look. But anyway, this clearly confirms, whoops, turned it up there, meant to turn it down, and it will even run backwards. It would hardly run backwards with the body on at all. It took about 90% power to run at a decent speed forward and would hardly run backwards at all. That's about 56, a little over 55% backwards. And it's even running over the points without hesitation. Bizarre. So, well, I don't know. Back to the bench, and I've got, see, I'm slowing it down. Nice, smooth operation. The chassis works great. The chassis works great. So I've just got to figure out what it is about putting the body on that stops the darn thing working. Here's the chassis on the rolling road again. I thought at first that maybe the body was somehow rubbing on the wheels or something. I tried the model on the rolling road with the body on, but without tightening the screw. The model would run okay, even with the body on, so long as I didn't tighten the screw in the chimney down. But as soon as I tightened that screw, it went back to barely running at all. Having confirmed that there was no contact between the moving parts and the body, I tried the only other thing that I could think of. You can see that those green wires are kind of sticking up in the middle, and I figured that tightening the body on must be pushing those wires down and somehow messing things up, perhaps weakening a contact, perhaps causing a partial short circuit. I rearranged those wires to sit further down, and then put the body back on and tightened the screw. And that did it. After that, the motor ran fine with the body on. So back to checking it on the layout again. Okay, we're back and now we got a body. Mm, 50% power, and off we go. It seems that the problem, well, I thought at first maybe the problem was, well, it was definitely the body. I could put the body on, and when I initially popped the body on, it still ran fine on the rolling road, but when I screwed the screw in the chimney down to tighten the body down, it went back to barely working and needing vast amounts of power to move at all. So I thought at first maybe the wheels were rubbing on the body. I'm not even sure whether this body is actually meant for this chassis. Well, whether the retaining screw's in the right place. This is 50% power. So it's decent running, right? Let's slow it down. Doesn't seem to hesitate over the point either. Its pickups are on the front and back wheels. Let's give it... See, well, that's 40% power backwards. Yeah, that's about 60% power. Let's give it... I'm sorry. It does go a bit slower backwards than forwards. That's almost 60% power backwards, and it's going about the same speed it was going. Well, you can do it a bit faster than it was. That's 55% power backwards. 57, whatever, I keep feeling with it. So I tightened the screw down and it stopped working again. It would barely work unless you give it tons of power. Basically, I think the problem was that the body was somehow sort of pressing on the wires, which are not the best arranged thing. This whole thing's a bit of a bodge. I'm not sure whether the body, as I say, even belongs to the chassis, and I'm pretty sure someone's fiddled with the internal wiring and changed the couplings as well. The couplings are a bit strange. It's definitely a Hornby Dublo 2 rail, but both the body and the chassis are marked. They are both Hornby Dublo items, but anyway. Basically, there were a bunch of wires inside, and I think when you screwed the body down, it was pressing on the wires and compromising the contact somehow. Somehow, when it pressed down on those wires, it didn't totally cut the contact off, because it still worked, but it somehow made the contact partial, so you were losing a lot of power because of the way the wires were pressed down. So I rearranged the wires. The screw in the chimney holding the body on is now completely tightened down. It's not slack. I did completely tighten it down, but I, as I say, before I did that, I rearranged the wires, and I was able eventually to rearrange the wires in such a way that they were low enough, even before the body was screwed on, that screwing the body on didn't shift them and cause a problem. Weird. So, you just never know quite what's causing problems with things. I would say this old Hornby Dublo 2 rail Jinty is now running quite nicely. Okay, now these are the 3 Hornby Dublo 3 rail LMS coaches that I got.
I knew that I had to change the wheels if I wanted to run them on modern tracks, since the original wheels would immediately short-circuit the controller. I initially fitted some wheels that I got from British model trains for this purpose, 12mm wheels with axles with blunt ends. They looked fine, and with the axles ground down a little so that they would fit in the bogies, they turned fine. But they wouldn't work on the layout, as with these wheels fitted, the coaches just kept derailing on the curves. I had 2 sets of these markets wheels left over from previous projects. I fitted these to the LMS coach, as seen here. Here's a close-up of one of the Dublo bogies with those markets wheels fitted. Those are 14mm wheels, and the coach ran fine with those wheels without any derailing. Unfortunately, I didn't have any more of those wheels, and Nigel with British model trains only had one more pair of those axles in stock. I tried various other wheels on the coaches. I came to the conclusion that the critical factor was the flanges. It was necessary for the wheels to have quite deep flanges to keep them between the rails on curves. The Dublo bogies didn't stay very even as they turned on curves, and if the wheels had shallow flanges, they would just jump over the rails. But wheels with more substantial flanges would work. Here you can see the coach that I fitted with the markets wheels in the centre. The nearer coach is fitted with some 12mm wheels from bogies I had in a bag of random old spares, and the far coach is fitted with some 13mm wheels that I stole from damaged United Dairies tank wagons that I had around awaiting repair or repurposing. All of these wheels worked with the Dublo bogies, and I was able to run all 3 coaches with this weird mixture of wheels. As I say, the critical factor seemed to be that all of these wheels had quite substantial flanges. So the coaches ran like that, but I thought it would be better if I could fit them with more similar wheels, at least wheels of the same size rather than 3 different sizes. So I tried to see what wheels I might be able to get from British model trains. I ordered 4 sets of these MRJ14DO/B wheels. The ones that I previously used with success were MRJ14MO/B, and it appeared that the only difference between the 2 types of wheels as per the market specs was the colour. I fitted these new markets wheels to one bogie of one of the LMS coaches, and then to the other bogie. So the near coach here has the new markets wheels, and the back coach still has the 13mm wheels from the tank wagons. I took the coach with the new markets wheels up to try it on the layout.
Okay, now I'm trying to test how the new markets wheels that I just got work with this coach, these LMS X3 rail coaches. There's a little Jinty, which is now running okay. Now, this is the one I put the markets wheels on before. That has the bright market wheels that I had before, and that ran okay before. And that's the new coach, the coach that I've just put the dark markets wheels on, which is actually the brake. There's 2 composites and a brake. It does seem to work, although I had a bit of trouble railing it. I didn't check the gauging on the markets wheels. I just put the markets wheels on the way they came in the bag, and I'm wondering if they're gauged right, because I had a bit of a struggle railing that. Although now it's railed, it does seem to be running. Let's try it. 50% power on the little Jinty. Quite impressed now that he can actually pull a train with 50% power. He needed 90% power to move the light engine before. And we'll see. And I don't think we're actually derailing. No, that's the critical coach, the back one. The other one ran before, so it should run still. And they're supposed to be the same wheels, other than colour. They're the same specification of markets wheels. They're just the first set were bright. I would have bought 2 more sets, 4 more sets I would have needed, because you need a set for each bogie. So I would have bought 4 more sets of bright if I could, but Nigel didn't have 4 more sets of bright. So I bought 4 sets of dark, Well, it does seem to be running without derailing, but I'm going to take it back downstairs again and check the gauging, because I'm a little unsure whether the gauging is really right. It would seem to be quite a struggle to persuade it to rail, but now it is railed, it does seem to be running okay without derailing. We're not derailed there, are we? No, I don't think so. We would know if we were. So we'll see. I just want to check the gauging and then I'll do the other coach.
Well, it sort of worked, but I had some trouble railing it, so I checked the gauging of the wheels. I just put them on as they came in the market's bags. 3 of the axles were around 14.3 millimeters, but this one was almost 14.5 millimeters, so I took it off and re-gauged it. I also re-gauged the wheels from the other market's bags. Those were all a bit wide. After re-gauging them, I fitted them to the remaining coach, so I now had 1 coach fitted with the original market's wheels that I had, the bright ones, and 2 coaches fitted with the new darker market's wheels as seen here. So I took the coaches up to the layout and tried them.
Okay, here we go. I have now replaced the wheels on the remaining Hornby Dublo 3-rail coaches again. So we got the Hornby Dublo Jinty, which we hope now is running okay. The first coach there is the one I originally put the market's wheels on. And then there's another composite there which I've now got market's wheels on, and the brake has market's wheels on. So if I've got them all railed properly, I am reasonably hopeful now that they'll all run okay. Okay, that's about 50, just over, hair over 50%. Yeah, maybe. We've come uncoupled. The back coach has come. And it's not railed properly. Okay, so I'm going to have to turn off. Well, unfortunately, I don't think this is working. It's not easy with these things. The new market's wheels, it's really hard to see, but see, these are the old market's wheels there, and those are the new market's wheels, and the new market's wheels just don't seem to have flanges quite as big as the old ones. And the flange size matters more than anything else with these coaches. They need decent flanges to keep them on the rails with these Hornby bogies, so I don't think these are going to work. Nope. So we're derailed again. So I'm afraid this has not worked. Nope, and the second one's derailed. See, the first one doesn't derail, which is the first one I did. So you just can't win, unfortunately. I just can't win. It looks like I'm going to have to go back to putting other wheels on these coaches.
Well, as you can see, they didn't work. The one with the original bright market's wheels still worked fine, but the coaches with the new darker market's wheels just derailed and uncoupled all the time. You can see why this is in this comparison of the two types of wheels. The darker wheels clearly have much shallower flanges, and that just won't work with the Dublo bogies. So I took off the new market's wheels, no point keeping them on if the coaches wouldn't run with them, and I put back on the weird assortment of wheels that I'd come to before. At least the coaches ran okay like this, and I did try them again. I don't know that I'm going to bother with any more attempts to re-wheel these coaches. They run okay the way they are, even if they are at slightly different heights due to the different wheel diameters. If I somehow come across a bunch of wheels with good-sized flanges, I might change the wheels again, but for now I'm not actively making any more efforts in that direction.
Well, this business with these Hornby coaches just seems to be crazy. I mean, they won't work with those new market's wheels. The new market's wheels have smaller flanges and they just won't work. So now we're back to where we were with one coach with the old market's wheels, which do have bigger flanges, one coach with some random wheels from some old coach bogies out of the spares bag, and one coach with some wheels stolen from United Dairies wagons, which is back the way they were before. And at least like this, since all those wagons have, all those wheels have fairly large flanges, they do seem to work. I mean, I wouldn't promise they'll work like crazy. If I jack the speed up too much, they may derail again, but basically, they run better than they did with anything else. They run better than they did with the first lot of wheels that I got for them, and better than they did with the new Markets wheels. I mean, according to market specs, those the only difference between those wheels and the brights that I had before was that the others were bright and they were coloured, but that's not true. That wasn't the only difference. The running surfaces and the length of the axles may be right, but the flanges on these newer ones were obviously much smaller, and they wouldn't work with these Hornby coaches. The flanges were too small, they just kept derailing. So there you go, what can I tell you? At least I've got the Hornby Dublo Jinty loco going reasonably now. That was that weird problem with the body pressing on the wiring and causing some sort of extra impedance or whatever. But I'm back where I was before with the Hornby coach, with the coaches, one set with 40, the first one has 14mm Markets wheels. The second one, I think, has 12mm wheels off some coach bogies, I don't even know what they were, and the back one has 13mm wagon wheels on it. But at least like this, they seem to run around without derailing. Whereas they wouldn't with the first set of replacement wheels that I got for them, and they wouldn't with the new Markets wheels. What can I tell you? Crazy business. They definitely are very picky about having, well, it's not like, I mean, those are working with 3 different sets of wheels, so it's not as if they only work with one type of wheels, but they won't work with wheels that have thin flanges on them, narrow, shallow flanges. There's just too much motion as they go around the corner and they derail. So those new Markets wheels are just going to have to go into spares, I'm afraid. They're no use for these coaches.